Hey YouTube, Kiritwig here, bringing you all an update to my Dark Magician Girl Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for January 2025. Wanted to start off the new year with a fan favorite, being the pure Dark Magician Girl deck, using all the different variants of the Magician Girls, from Apple Magician Girl to Chocolate Magician Girl to the main boss monster of the deck, being Dark Magician Girl, and being able to use her for different fusion plays, whether it be with the Eye of Timaeus or the many different other Magician Girls that we run in the deck. Tried to stick to as pure of a variant of the deck that we can for the support we have. Would definitely be cool to see some more Magician Girl cards in the future that can actually play towards the strengths of the deck. But until then, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the actual Magician Girl lineup, for the Dark Magician Girl, we're running 3 copies of this boss monster. Wasn't sure which version of Dark Magician Girl to use. They all have very, very good artwork, but I still think that my newest favorite was the reason that I wanted to make the deck to begin with. But Dark Magician Girl being the focus, as I said before, for the variety of fusion monsters that we can go into using her, or just being able to have her be the setup with our other Magician Girl monsters, makes her a 3-of to use the deck. And there are some other cards that can help to special summon this card out onto the field as well, which we'll get to in just a bit. For the other 3-ofs, we're running 3 copies of Chocolate Magician Girl. Once per turn, you can discard 1 spellcaster type monster to draw 1 card. And once per turn, if this card's targeted for an attack, you can target 1 spellcaster type monster in your graveyard, except for Chocolate Magician Girl, and special summon it. Then change the attack target to it. If you do, the attacking monster's attack becomes half its current attack. So you can use cards like Dark Magician Girl as the discard cost for Chocolate Magician Girl to draw into your other cards of the deck, being able to then summon that card onto the field, being more of a powerhouse for your opponent to then be able to swing into, and also half the attack of the current attacking monsters. So then if they don't have the 4,000 attack, most of the time they will get destroyed by battle with your Dark Magician Girl. So good setup for the cycling through the deck, and then extra protection for those spellcasters you sent to the graveyard. If you didn't send Dark Magician Girl, you could have sent one of our other Magician Girl monsters, which also have card effects when they are attacked into, with the last of our 3-ofs being the 3 Berry Magician Girl. If this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 Magician Girl monster from your deck to your hand, and once per turn during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this card, or targets this card for an attack, you can change this card's battle position, and if you do, special summon 1 Magician Girl monster from your deck, except for Berry Magician Girl. So these switch and setup definitely helps for more setup of a defensive Magician Girl wall on the field, but I would say Berry Magician Girl just opens up more and more search power, so it's definitely a 3-of in the deck as well, with the lower numbers for our Magician Girls being the next 3, which are the 2 copies of Apple Magician Girl. Once per turn, if this card's targeted for an attack, you can special summon 1 level 5 or lower spellcaster monster from your hand, then change the attack target to it. And also, the attack monster's attack becomes half its current attack. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target up to 3 Magician Girl monsters with different names in your graveyard and add them to your hand. So I would say Apple Magician Girl is more of a late game setup card, needing the Magician Girls in your graveyard to be able to make use of again, but then you can have recycle power, being able to have more search power with the Berry Magician Girl you added back, or the add back power if you add Chocolate Magician Girl and another Magician monster, to then have this card be summoned out and the discard engine to be able to draw into more cards. We're also running 2 copies of Lemon Magician Girl. Once per turn, you can tribute 1 Magician Girl monster, except for Lemon Magician Girl, to add 1 spellcaster type monster from your deck to your hand. And once per turn, if this card is targeted for an attack, you can special summon 1 spellcaster type monster from your hand, but its effects are, if any, negated, then change the attack target to it. So it does negate the effect of the other Magician Girl with summon out. That's why we're running lower numbers, but still you'll have the bigger attack targets, which the attack boost isn't as relevant for Dark Magician Girl in this deck. So still just a way to get another body on the field, with the last of our Magician Girls being the 2 copies of Kiwi Magician Girl. During the player's turn, you can discard this card. Magician Girl monsters you currently control gain 300 attack and defense for each Magician Girl with different names on the field and in the graveyard until the end of this turn. Spellcaster type monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, and your opponent cannot target them with card effects. So added setup using these cards, but also the protection while it's on the field makes it a good continuous effect to use. But if you have all of the other different Magician Girls that we mentioned before, you can hit some pretty big numbers for your bigger boss monsters like the Dark Magician Girl on the field to be able to have that attack boost. For more of the generic engine that we run in the deck, 3 copies of Magician's Soul just for the added special summon power, the send power for other Magician Girl monsters as well, and then being able to special summon Dark Magician Girl off of this card from your graveyard to the field as well. And then 2 copies of Summoner Monk, just once again, same premise for special summoning, but we can use Summoner Monk to grab our Chocolate Magician Girl, being an easier summon in the deck to rely on. So the only target for Summoner Monk obviously is Chocolate Magician Girl, but then from there you can go for more sifting through the spellcaster type monsters and then have a link to play also. With the last of our spellcasters, I have a lineup of either Droll Lockbird or the Apprentice Magician for the last spot here. Droll Lockbird can be set up in the graveyard to then be used for one of our other fusion plays, building up the number of spellcasters in the graveyard while also being able to shut down our opponent from adding cards from the deck to their hand during their turn. And Apprentice Illusion Magician being another spellcaster monster to special summon on the field and give us rank 6 plays to use with our Dark Magician Girl. The setup here depends on what you want to use. You can go for 3 Apprentice Illusion, you can go for the full Droll Lockbird. It's player preference at this spot in the deck. For the spells, we're running 2 copies of the Eye of Timaeus, with this card being your added setup for being able to go into some of our different fusion monsters, including our boss monster, Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight, just needing the Dark Magician Girl on the field, and then our Timaeus spell card to be able to do so. We're also running the 2 copies of Secret of Dark Magic for more fusion options depending on what we may have on the field to be able to go into for our resources, whether it be the added option of going into our bigger boss monster, the Quintet Magician, or some of the other generic fusion options using our spellcaster type monsters in the deck as well. And lastly, for the fusion spells, the 1 copy of the Magicalized Fusion. This card just gives us more of a fusion option with all of the spellcaster type setup that we can do in the graveyard by banishing those cards. So it is a great late game card, but also why we're only running 1 of this card as well. And then we are also running the 1 copy of Magical Dimension just for more destruction power and special summon power of our variety of different spellcaster type monsters, being able to have the tribute for the 1 on the field and then giving us an additional special summon of another one from our hand and then destroying an opponent's monster on the field. We also run the 1-for-1. This is more for summoning out Magician Souls. You don't really want to summon Berry Magician Girl off a 1-for-1 because you won't get the search, since it can only be done with a normal summon, with our last of the 1-ofs for the spells being 1 copy of Monster Reborn, just more resource grab from the graveyard, with a 3 of in the deck being our 3 fusion deployment, because with this card you can reveal the Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight, and then get a special summon for the Dark Magician Girl from the deck to the field, and then just being restricted for fusion plays for the rest of the turn. And then lastly, for the spells, 2 copies of Pot of Desires. We run a good variety of different spells, so spellcasters, so being able just to banish to draw into more of the needed ones can definitely help, depending on if we're short from the hand as well. With our traps being the 1 copy of Magician's Defense. While you control a spellcaster type monster, any damage you take is halved. You cannot half the same damage twice this way. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 spellcaster type monster in your graveyard and special summoning it. Being a continuous trap, it's just a 1 of tech to add as more of a defensive measure in the deck against your opponent. The 2 copies of Magician's Circle, same premise, but just more special summon power for a spellcaster monster with 2,000 attack from your deck in attack position. And then the 1 Rivalry of Warlords to restrict the use of different types, with the majority of the ones we'll be summoning in this deck just being spellcasters to begin with. And then for the extra deck, for the fusion lineup, we have the 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight, for the Timaeus fusion play, and also the reveal for the fusion deployment. If you want to run 2 copies of this card, you could always take out 1 of the copies of Quintet Magician, which we're running 2 copies of, whether you have your full field of spellcasters to use with your go-to quick play spell for the multiple attack options, or the use of your Magicalized Fusion, and then also the 1 Garura for more draw power and other additional attack boost, using 2 monsters of the same type and attribute, but different names. So this is using your Apprentice Illusion and your Dark Magician Girl to be able to summon this card out. With the Xyz monsters being the 1 copy of Naruto, the 1 copy of Slacker Magician, and the 1 copy of Perform Mage Trapeze Magician to use for Xyz monsters, while retaining the spellcaster lineup, with our Link monsters being the 1 copy of Artemis, the Magistus Moon Maiden, 1 Selene, Queen of Master Magicians, the 1 Relinquished Anima, the 1 SP Little Knight, and the 1 Nightmare Cerberus, course, with the bigger links being the 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 access code talker to be able to go into. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I said before, the Magician Girl deck is definitely a defensive setup, with some of your more offensive cards being able to set up your fusion deployment along with the Eye of Timaeus play to get out your Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. Otherwise, you're sitting more on a defensive play against your opponent's card effects and attacks, depending on the monsters you summon and search out. Being able to search out specific ones, set them up in your graveyard, and then have more of a special summon option for those defensive walls using your Magician monsters to continue that wall against your opponent, building up spellcasters for you then to either fusion summon away or use for the extra deck setup. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig out.